Welcome to The Leap with Japa, the podcast that bridges continents and connects stories. Join us as we dive into the vibrant world of international education, explore diverse cultures, and share the extraordinary journeys of students far from home. Whether you're dreaming of studying abroad or already embarking on this adventure through other means, Leap with Japa is your companion in navigating the exciting, challenging, and transformative world of global education. Let's leap into today's episode.
Well,
Good morning, Dr. Ojo. This is your name is very interesting.
Yeah.
It's nice to talk to you officially again. I'm hoping that things are well on your
What about
end.
you?
I do. I'm just
Very
taking it a day
important.
at a time. Okay, well, thank you for joining me on this podcast, Leap with Japa. I hope that this will be a very good session for you as much as it is for me. So I'll just jump right into it. We've known ourselves for a while. We've known ourselves since 2015. We met at Education USA. So this is Education USA.
Connect. I think you should invite Mrs. Wadilike one day to your podcast.
Yes, I've tried. I've actually reached out to Mrs. Wadilike and Mrs. to see if I can get them to come and do cast interview as well, video as well. So, but let's start with. So, what motivated you to move from Nigeria to the US?
Basically, to be honest with you, I'm a biochemist, right? I studied biochemistry. I graduated in 2010 from the University of Benin for my bachelor's degree, and then after NYSC, I went back in 2013 for my master's degree in biochemistry. Before deciding to come to the US for my PhD in chemistry. So I got that degree from the University of Kentucky. Kentucky of all places. So, but in terms of what motivated me as a biochemist, the opportunities, back home are very limited, especially considering the fact that it's not a professional course like lawyer, doctor, engineer, and all that. So it's basically a research-based discipline, and research is poorly funded back home. So the next logical thing for me to think about is, how do I maximize all these degrees that I have? How do I utilize my skills? I can't do that where I am because there are far less investment in research. So the next logical choice was to think about a country outside Nigeria where I can further my studies. And so US came to mind first. In fact, the United States have spent over $100 billion in just investment in applied science and research only in 2023. So the opportunities here for research are really vast. So that was why I came here. And also, the United States is to me, I see US as a continent, right? It's a very massive country. And there are over 4,500 universities in the US. So what are the odds that there won't be one university that likes you? I threw my hat in the ring, applied to so many schools, and I think I did I did the process twice, right? The process of applying. So I did for both times. I did 20 applications, and I was able to get into 3 or 4 of them. And then I decided to go to University of Kentucky because they offered the most funding. yeah, and then I also
Those
liked the
funding.
research in the Department of Chemistry. So all these put together, better job
Okay. So
opportunities, better opportunity to utilize my skills, and also to have better hands-on experience in
right.
the lab. Right back in Nigeria, we are really good with the theory of things, but because research is poorly funded,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, we have
Poorly
less
funded.
experience with instrumentation. So coming to this was a great opportunity for
Okay.
to be like a well-rounded scientist. So that was my motivation.
Right. Okay. So
Okay.
before the US, let's kind of go back in Nigeria. What was your upbringing like? Where did you
Mm,
grow up? What did you study? What was your
yeah.
family
I mean
dynamics
that's a
like?
good question. Honestly, I'm from Edo State in Nigeria. So Edo State is in the south
Right.
central, south part of the country. And in Edo State, I'm from a local government called Akoko Edo local government, which is far. Like Akoko Edo
Okay.
is a minority local government in Edo State. So imagine Edo State is a minority,
Right.
you know, state in Nigeria. It's not part of like the Yoruba,
States in
Igbos,
Nigeria.
or Hausa. It's kind of like a state that has a lot of ethnic groups. So among those ethnic groups, I'm from like a minority
Right.
of the minority.
Ethnic group. Ethnic
But
group. So
I went to
you
high
went to high
school
school and
and primary school in Igara.
yeah,
Igara is where I come from in
Figaro.
Akoko Edo local government. Igara is the headquarter of the local government. So I went to a private school.
Okay.
Private. I was one of the fortunate kids to go
Okay.
to private school in Igara back then, and I went to one of the best
Okay.
private schools. So I went to the same school, God's Grace Primary School, and then I attended God's Grace College, and then I graduated from yeah,
Okay.
I graduated
Good.
from primary
Primary
school
and secondary.
1999,
Okay.
graduated from secondary school in 2005, and then got admitted into Uniben in 2006.
Okay.
And my parents were teachers, right? My father
Okay.
is a retired principal of a secondary school, and my mom is a retired headmistress of a
Okay.
primary school. So, so
Oh wow. So you
naturally,
come from an
we were told to
educational
go to school, and we have
yeah.
to because your parents
School.
are training other children, right? So they also have to show that okay, I'm
Right.
training other children, but my children also are following that path. So that's kind of like my background. Um, in terms of family, I come
Okay.
from a family of seven, five children, mother and father. Yeah, five children, mother and
7.
father. We are the first, myself and my twin brother. Yeah, we are the first. And
Right.
three boys, two girls. Unfortunately, I lost my sister, but that's a story for another day.
Yeah.
But
That's
yeah,
a story for another day.
I grew up
Remember
in
that when that happened.
a family that loves education, right? My twin brother has a PhD in He's
Yes. I
going to
tried
be
to
here.
get him.
He's going to be here next week. I
Tried
hope
to
you
get him.
can find a way to ask the same question and combine it. Yeah, so
I'll
he's a
combine it. Yes.
PhD in electrical engineering. Then my younger sister, Alaba, is in the University of
Right.
South Carolina.
Yeah.
So studying for a PhD in
Yeah.
chemical engineering. So it's just, yeah, in this
Yeah.
pond of education.
It's a
Yeah.
family of PhDs.
Mm.
Okay, so moving on to the next question. What were the initial
Oh,
challenges?
okay.
So I'm reading that off from what I sent to you. Some of the challenges you faced when you arrived in the
So,
US for your studies.
yeah.
How did you manage
Honestly,
to navigate these
coming
challenges?
to a country like the US for the first time, in fact, I make jokes with my friends. I say the first time I ever got on a plane was on an international flight. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember you told me that because
Mhm.
we were in USA together. I
Yeah.
came
Yeah. A year. You were
a year
able to,
before or some yeah,
make the
a
admission
year
process. You got accepted. In 2015, I became jealous of you guys and I
yes.
went back to my drawing.
Oh, but
Yeah,
I just made sure I had to
do
keep
it.
encouraging you that
Yeah.
yes, please make sure don't
Honestly,
stop.
Education USA was really helpful to me. They already prepared my mind about the challenges I was going to face in the US. but I didn't know it was going to be that severe,
Okay.
especially my first year. In fact, my first semester, to be very
Okay.
specific. So what happened was I wasn't
Yeah.
used to combining work and school. So basically, when you come for PhD in the US and
Oh,
you are given an assistantship, you are basically going to combine
yes.
teaching undergraduates as a teaching assistant, especially your first semester, and
Yes.
also trying to attend your classes and passing your exams.
Class.
So, and
Yes.
basically, my style is I do it close to exam in Nigeria. How I got through university. Oh, when
Well,
it's
you study close to
the beginning
exams.
of the semester, I play, and then as soon as it's time for exam, I hit it hard, and I get my A or a B, and I move
Right.
on.
Okay.
So I was going to use that same
Okay.
approach in the U. I didn't know that there's nothing like one
Okay.
exam. There are series of exams, series of tests, series of class assignment that you have to
Okay.
take home assignment, and there were just a lot of moving parts. So there are a lot of things you had to do. You don't have to wait
Okay.
for one maybe midterm test and then final exam. No, there are so many things that contributes to
Right.
your. So I was missing out of those things. I just couldn't. Yeah, I
Oh,
could not
okay.
marry everything I was doing together. It was tough for me.
Wow.
I get to teach in the mornings, maybe from 9 a.m. to 11 or 12. I have 3 hours, 2 days in a week to teach, and then some other hours for grading the students. So once I do that, I'm tired, I'm
Right.
off to sleep. I don't even have time to read. And before you know it, is time for midterm one.
Agreed. Right.
And I wake up in the night, in night to the exam, trying to study everything together. It wasn't working.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Trying to put
yes,
everything
it
together.
wasn't working. So that was one.
Wow. Well, those are
Yeah.
really
So
tough challenges.
familiarity with the system, education system in the US was one challenge for me. So what I did was I had to talk to
Okay.
my international student representative. So I went there and I explained to them like this thing is too
Okay.
much, right? So there is a rule. If you are coming to the US, if you are in the US for the first time, if you are in the US education system for the first time, you are allowed to take
Right.
less than the required 9 credit units
Right.
for international students. So I
Great. Oh, yes.
explained to them and
Yes.
they
Yes.
allowed me to drop one course at least semester. So I was able to take less than nine
Oh.
credit units. That was how I was able to
Okay.
navigate my way through that semester. And then I actually hit a reset button. So at the beginning of
Okay.
the semester, I start reading, I start gathering all my materials, I make
Okay.
sure I grade my papers on time and have time to focus on my because I was I was
Fine.
actually failing in my first semester. You can't believe it. I tell people I think the worst
Wow. Wow.
test I've ever taken was analytical chemistry mid one in my first semester. Do you know what was my
Okay.
score in that exam? You won't believe
What was the
16%.
score? My God.
So that was
That was
that was the
was a
first
welcome.
exam I
That
did
was a
in terms
welcome
of
to the
midterms.
US.
I'm like, no, this is gonna be bad. What saved me was the professor said there was gonna be four exams and he was gonna drop the least grade.
Okay.
So your grade is going just the
Oh,
three
okay.
exams are going to count towards your grade, but you will write four. Then he picks the best
Right.
three. So that was what
You picked
saved
the best
me.
three. Okay.
So that was first semester, but that never happened again. Obviously, I went on to obtain my degree. So that was a challenge navigating through the system. But I was able to, you know,
Right.
someone said, a wise man says, if you know the root of your problem, then your problem is half solved, right? So I knew that it was a problem of reading on
Of course.
time and organizing myself. So I spoke
Right.
with a former professor from University of
Okay.
Benin where I did my master's and undergrad, and he told me, he said that, have
Okay.
you read for 10 hours straight? Why are you saying you are failing? Have you read for 10 hours? If you read
Wow.
for 10 hours and you still fail, come back and tell me. I mean, of course, it doesn't mean I should read for 10 hours. He's just trying to tell me, have you tried harder?
You know,
Have you pushed yourself to the limit?
right.
Don't come here complaining to me when you have
Right.
not done what you're supposed to do. And that
What
kind
you're
of
supposed to do.
changed everything for me.
So essentially, your initial challenges were, and you can say,
Yes,
was time
time
management.
management, how
That's
to combine teaching and studies and familiarizing myself with the system is very important to every student. Time management is very important,
every
especially
student.
international
Yeah.
students, right? If you fail, they will close your
Yeah.
service record. And that's the beginning
That's
of
the
your
beginning. That's
downfall
the
in the
beginning of another
US.
night.
You want to achieve exactly what you told
Yeah.
them in the embassy that you are here to achieve.
Yes. 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 So this kind of answers the next question of how did you adapt to the cultural differences, both in academia? So
Yes,
you had to do a reset, and you dropped one class, and
yes,
then you picked it up in the next semester, and then okay, let's get on with
yeah.
with why we are here. So in terms of the next question is your support systems and the community that were instrumental in helping you settle and succeed in the early days. So aside from going to the international office, what other things, which other people did you meet? And do you have
Yeah,
any study
so
groups and
for
things like
support
that?
system, I think sometimes the way I am, it takes me some time, right, to be able to make friends and get into groups and all that. So
Yeah. Okay.
basically, I had a roommate who came from Nigeria with me. His name is Japheth. Maybe you should interview him. I'll tell him, Dr. Japheth Gado. This guy,
I think
yeah, so
where is he
when he
now?
finished his PhD, he was a postdoc at I think NREL National Lab in Colorado, but now he's in Houston. He's working for a company in Houston, Texas.
Okay.
So anyway, he was really a motivating factor for me because he didn't have the challenge I was having. Somehow he was just able to navigate. So what happened was his own advisor then was willing to make
Yeah.
him a research assistant, right? But
Okay.
in his first semester, he was still a teaching assistant, but he didn't have as much teaching duties like I did because
Okay.
chemistry is a course that all the
Okay.
undergrads that are pre-med or pre-pharmacy or pre-dental school, they have to take chemistry
Right.
classes. So you have a lot of
That's
teaching
chemistry.
assistantship
Okay.
opportunities in the Department of Chemistry. I'll come to that in the course of the podcast. So he was
Okay.
able to
Okay.
navigate his own way. One, not to minimize his own achievement, he was really brilliant, right? And he was able to manage his time. So I was kind of like
Right.
just watching him. So whatever he does, I do it. I'm like, okay, this
Okay.
guy is not sleeping all through the night. He's waking up this time. He's doing this. So I just started following it naturally what he was doing, and that really helped me in
Okay.
my second semester.
Okay.
And also because I've already gone through fire in the first semester, right? No person will tell you now.
Yeah.
So I start early.
So,
What the thing that always come to my mind is
oh, okay.
if you fail, how will your parents feel? Imagine. I mean, I'm kind of like
Hmm.
I came here to get a PhD. How do I feel out? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's stuck in my brain. And there are a lot of people, back home that knows you are here for PhD, right? So you have to deliver at least for your own to make your
Yeah.
parents happy, right? So that you will not regret anything in life, right?
Happy.
So
Yes.
I just had to
Yeah.
the way I navigated it, especially the first year, was kind of like I call it self awareness and self appraiser. I appraise myself and I said, look, I got to face this thing head on. And I realized that when you start
Right.
reading early enough in the semester, it makes a whole lot of difference because there is so much that your head can take on
Hmm.
the. But it's not even encouraged for you to start studying
Yeah.
on the night of the exam. You you end up cramming a lot of
Yeah.
things and then you forget before
Yeah.
you go to the hall,
Things. Yeah.
and that is not actually learning, right? Yeah, you just jam
No,
things in
it's
your
not.
head and you pour it out and you forget about it. No, if you really want to learn something, you have to start early and follow the class. What I do
Yeah.
is what I did in my fourth semester is sometimes the professor is teaching, I don't understand in my head. I say, okay, I'll read it later. No problem when I will go home and read it.
Right.
I will have time to read it 5 weeks after or 4 weeks after because I'm doing other things. I'm taking other classes, right? So before I get to, so I'm already five
Right.
weeks behind. So, and
Behind.
that
Yes.
communication skills was not something we had in our first semester. Usually, I didn't know that you could just ask the professor, oh, I
No.
don't understand this, right? That saves you a whole lot of time. But because
Right.
one, you don't want to sound foolish in class, especially when you think other people understand.
Right. And it. I know you. I know you don't.
Yes,
They're
you
like,
don't
"Ah, I don't
look,
want to look like the
yeah,
one that
you don't
doesn't
want to look
understand,
like the
so I'm
one that
forced
don't. So
to
you put yourself in a situation where you continue to procrastinate. I'll read it. I'll read it. I'll read it, and
understand."
then it's exam time. So basically, my approach was if the lecturer
So
teaches it, I'm going home to read it, and if I don't understand, I ask right there in the
right.
class. Because the way
Right there.
PhD is in the US is once you if you come for the first
Yeah.
time, you still have at least 3 to 4 semesters to take classes before you now focus on research
Classes.
exclusively. You'll
Yes.
still be doing some research, but it won't
Yes.
be as effective as when
Yeah.
you are done with all your classes and then you take your qualifying exam
Yeah.
and then you now go deep into the so you have to pass your classes before you can start
Yeah.
doing your research and all that. Or so sometimes the mistake people make is they kind of want to neglect the classes and focus on their research. So when you excel in your research and you fail your classes, you are out. So
Yeah.
those were some of the
Yeah.
dynamics, some of the things that I did.
So, what, based on all you've said now, what kind of advice would you give international students right now in
Yeah.
the middle of this? We're still going to talk more. What advice would you give international? There's so many things you've said already, and that is already advice
Exactly.
in terms of time
Mhm.
management. The way you.
So
So, what other advice would you give
aside from
to international
time
potential?
management as an international student, I will say know that you are an international student. Don't forget that ever. What do I mean by that?
Okay.
There are things that
Yeah.
local students or non-internationals can get away with. For example, if
Right.
non-international students fail out, they fail out, they go get a job, they
Right.
do other things, right? They don't. But you,
Yeah.
if you fail out, you are going back home. Except you want to stay and become illegal, which you don't want to do because the sorrow is too much, the hardship
Yeah.
you will go through is too much, right? So the country rewards hard work. You know what I mean? This place
Yeah.
rewards
That's true.
hard work, consistency, right? And being honest with
Yeah.
yourself. This is what I came to do, and this is
Yeah.
what I must do. I came to get a master's, I must get that master's.
Right.
You know what I mean? So don't be
Correct. Yes.
don't be distracted with parties or be
Okay.
distracted with other things. Maybe you see American student partying and all that. Yeah, it's good to party, but remember the primary aim. You won't have opportunity to party if you fail. So,
Yeah,
so
that's
what I
true.
will say is be focused. Know why you are here. Always remember the fact that you are an
Yeah.
international student, and when you have that, you are sure to succeed.
Okay, good. Now let's go back on
Okay.
your reflection so far of it. Um, Looking back on your journey from Nigeria to becoming a scientist in the US, what are some of the most valuable lessons you've learned about yourself
Hmm.
and your career
The
so far?
most valuable lesson about myself I've learned is I know this may sound like a cliche. I can achieve whatever I set my heart to achieve. The reason I say that
Hmm.
is like I
Okay.
told you at the beginning it was rough.
Yeah.
In fact,
Yeah.
the way my department was structured, chemistry department at University of Kentucky,
Yeah.
every once you arrive, the first day that school resumed, the first week, they will give you what they call competency
Right.
test. Yeah, everybody, both
Really?
local and international. Competency test is basically A level. In Nigeria, we call it A level. I think ACS level
Okay.
chemistry exams. So
Okay.
there are they will give you there are
Really?
five aspects of chemistry. There is biochemistry, there is analytical chemistry, there is physical chemistry, there is inorganic,
Organic.
and there is analytical. I hope I said it. Biochemistry, analytical, inorganic, organic,
Inorganic.
and analytical. So when you come,
Right.
the way
Okay.
my
Yes.
development is, the day one you do maybe analytical and biochemistry, the next day you do. So you do those five. So first of all, they are baptizing you, they are
Right.
welcoming you with exam. So that is good in a way because
Wow.
when you fail woefully, you quickly adjust. You say, "Wow, this is not a joke," right?
Yeah.
So what they want to
Yeah.
do is they just want to use that to so once the result is released, right? They will assign
Yeah.
you to a professor to advise you on where they think if they are not doing it
Oh.
to kick you out, they are doing it to be able to assess where your strength and your weaknesses are. So they will assign you to a professor who will
Okay.
sit with you and say, look, you did very badly here. I think you should take courses in physical chem. I think you should focus
Okay.
more.
Okay.
And the good thing about that course is if you score above 80%, you wouldn't have to take that course.
Yeah.
Yes, they waive it
Oh,
for
really?
you.
Well, does it count
So
towards your GPA or something?
it's not there, right? It's not going to be there, but you are not taking it. It's
Yeah.
not
Okay.
adding
So,
or removing, but it's one less stress for you.
so if it's a
You
so if it's a
met it.
prerequisite, you've met that
And
prerequisite.
it's yeah, so
Okay. Okay.
basically you are given the chance to waive at least five courses. If you can get 80% on all five,
Oh.
they waive five for you, so you get to take just three
Right.
courses, three classes.
Great.
But I
Oh
can bet you
wow.
the oh yeah, the
You have
best
to be
I've seen
very, very
is
good.
people getting maybe one waived or two waived. That's the best I've seen. Oh, you know
How
the
many
answer
did you get
already.
with?
Nothing. Nothing was read. I did not
No.
read. I mean,
Wow.
I knew that it was going to just be for advice, right? So I didn't take it serious. I mean, are you going to
Right.
start reading from Nigeria for a first time? So,
Oh, so that means it has to be something that was
yes,
in it, something
that,
that was natural
yes,
to you. You have to be
that's the
very good at
because
it.
you don't even have an idea. There's no so it's yeah, so
Yeah.
it has to be
Okay.
innate. Like maybe like I have a friend who has been teaching biochemistry, he was a lecturer in Nigeria. So he's been lecturing for like 7 years before he came
Yeah.
for his PhD. So naturally he
Yeah.
passed the biochemistry side of things, right? So they waived it for him because it's something he
Right.
taught
Okay.
for years and years and years before coming. Those are the type of
Yes.
people that can get it. Or people that just
People that
finished.
would cross that
There are people in the US, the way they do it, some of them get even PhD admission
program.
before they finish their final semester in college. So their brain is still
Final
fresh. Some
semester.
of
Yeah.
them also, but generally 80 to 90% of us have to retake those courses. So yeah, yeah. So
Wow.
those were some of the little changes. Well, I don't remember what was the question again. I've gone to,
So it was looking back on your journey. What are
oh
some of the
yeah.
most valuable lessons you've learned about
Yeah.
yourself
Yeah.
and your
So the
career?
reason I
About
brought that
about
up was
yourself. Yes.
because there were already signs to tell me that guy, you have to see. All I needed was just little adjustments here and there, right? And but from my second semester, it was flight all through. I called it flight. I was flying high, killing my classes, and
Right.
then the in your PhD you have what we call the written qualifiers and the oral qualifiers. So
Yes.
in those days, the way they structured the
Yes.
written qualifiers was every month, right? You write an exam
Yeah.
every month. Every last
Every
either
month.
last Saturday or first Saturday of the month, I forget. You write an exam.
Okay.
On Wednesday of the week, they will send topics to all
Yeah.
of us. Okay, biochemistry, this is the topic. Physical chemistry,
Okay.
this is the topic. So basically, you look at all the topics and say, "Oh, I think I prefer
Okay.
PChem. I'm going to write PChem this month, right?"
Okay.
But because I had a strong background in
Okay.
biochemistry, I was always taking the biochemistry exam. So basically, you have four of those exams every semester. And yes, so you have four of those
Wow.
exams and you write it for 2 years. Yeah, let me explain.
What?
Yeah,
That is
we call it
very, very
cumulative exam.
tough.
So every exam is graded point 1 to 3. So I think 3 points
Okay.
starts from 70%. 1 point starts from
Okay.
50. So between 50 to 60 is 1 point, right? And then
Okay.
between 60 to 70 is 2 points. Then 70 above percent is
Okay.
3 points. So you kind of keep accumulating the point
Okay.
until you get to, so there is a total of 3 points per exam, right? And you have 16 of that.
Okay.
So meaning 16 times 3,
Wow.
right? Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
possibility of
48.
48 points, but you only need to get to 8 points
Yeah.
to stop taking the exam. But there's a
Oh.
caveat to it. You, the caveat is that you
What's the
can't
caveat?
have more than 1 point 4 times. So basically, let's say for example, the first
Oh.
semester I
So
took
if you,
four of those exams, right? And I scored 1 1 1 1.
yes.
So I've already gotten 4 points
Yes.
out of the eight that I need, right? If I get any extra 1 point, it doesn't
Right.
count because I
Ah.
can only have a maximum of 1 point 4 times. So basically, they
One
want you to have
four
at
times.
least a multiple twice. So if I have 1 1 1 1, right, and then one second semester
Yes.
of my first year, the next four exam, I have 1 1, right? Those two doesn't count. Then
Yeah. Yeah.
if I get 2 2,
Those two
that's
count.
four, right? 4 plus my four that I had
Yeah.
already, that's 8 points.
Yeah.
I'm done and I stop.
That's you
So
stop.
it it was stressful, but I feel like I prefer that because you kind of have opportunity to see how you are doing each time and adjust yourself. But so many people were failing out. You have people that have like,
Okay.
let me tell you an example. Someone had 1 point, right? And then he had
Yeah.
1 point for like 10 times. Okay, and then he had just one, 2 points, and the other ones was 1 point. That means he
Yeah.
fails out. So, so,
That
so
means
yeah,
that's
so
six. You got a
you
maximum of
could have a maximum, you could have like the entire 16 points, 111 in all. You score one in all the exam and you still fail out.
yeah.
So it from
Wow.
there are few schools that do. I think Purdue was doing that also. They call it cumulative exams, but students were failing out a lot. Hi, right? Before I got my
Yeah.
first one, I didn't get my.
Yes.
I
Just
wasted the first eight. The first year I
oh
scored
wow. That's the first
zero.
year. Zero.
That's what I'm telling you. That there are so many things that would have taken me out of this PhD
Wow.
program. So in my second year, I called myself. I said, "You are heading towards getting out of this program, my friend. You better
Wow.
retrace your step because it's still a question
Wow.
of time management. Because they bring the topic on Wednesday,
Yes.
I wait till Friday to start reading in night school. So
In
basically, I
night
told
two.
myself, I said, no. So you know what I did? I called my classmate,
Go on.
Nicole is her name.
Yeah.
Nicole had the
Yeah.
first semester 2222. She's done. Eight
Ah,
points in the
she's
first
done.
four exams, and she's done. I said, Nicole,
Wow.
come. How do you read for these exams? How do you read for this
Right.
exam? And she told me, "Oh, when they bring the topic, I don't just go and start reading. What I do is I make an outline. So, for example, if the topic is going to
Okay.
be about protein biosynthesis, for example, she will say first, what
Okay.
is a protein?
Yeah.
She makes those questions by herself, like
Okay.
bullet points.
Yeah.
She sent me an example. What is a
Third point.
protein? How is protein
Okay.
biosynthesized? What are the relevance of the biosynthesis? What enzymes
Right.
are involved in the biosynthesis? What pathway does it take in
Right.
biosynthesis? What are the cofactors
Right.
that the enzymes use it? What are the implications if there is a defect in protein biosynthesis? How are protein purified? He makes that outlines, and once he types that outline out, for each outline, he creates a space where she creates a space, sorry,
Right.
where she writes the answers just like the way you send me
The
bullet points
answers.
to the questions, right? So for each bullet point, she answers the question from the textbook,
Okay.
answers
Okay.
it to the best of her ability, and that is what she will keep. That she will make sure she finishes that on Wednesday or latest Thursday morning, and then she has the entire Thursday to look over
Right.
the answers. She has the entire Friday. So even if the question doesn't
Okay.
come out exactly the way you wrote it, you've already read enough to be able to answer
Right.
every question. Saeed,
Answer
it
it.
was like magic. I tried it first time.
Wow.
I went to the exam hall,
Yeah.
wrote the exam. Bam! I scored two. Second
Wow.
time, I did it the same way. Bam! I scored one. So meaning I was looking for just
Ah.
5 points more,
Two,
right? And
three.
we have six more of the exam. That's two for the third
Six.
semester and four for the fourth semester. I wrote the third one, Said.
Correct.
I scored two.
Yeah.
That's five.
Wow.
Said, I wrote the
That's
fourth
five.
one. I scored three.
Remaining three.
I was the
What?
third or fourth person to finish in my class. I came from zero
Wow.
to eight
From zero
within
to
one
eight.
semester. Imagine I wasn't humble enough to
Wow.
ask.
Wask.
So that was how even my advisor was like,
Wow.
are you sure this guy is going to be able to? Because if you are not passing your qualifier, the advisor will not have the confidence to make you a research assistant because he doesn't want to
A
spend
research
money on someone that
assistant.
will fail out. So that
Yeah.
was how I
Yeah.
kind of got away from teaching and I became very free to focus on
A,
my research. So, so the lesson is ask question. Don't be too big-headed in quote to say, "Oh, I can do it on my own. I'm a legend. Where I came from, I'm the best in my country." It,
yes,
yes,
we
I'm
tend
better
to
than
have
these
that kind
people.
of
I don't. Why would I be asking a
that
white person? Why would I be asking an Indian?
yeah,
Or why would I be asking it? No, if that is what it. After asking, don't talk to the
yeah.
person again. Don't worry, but you need to get that information you need to move to the next level. So that was how
Right.
I think Nicole
Right.
was the first person to finish up. Someone else, I was the third in the entire, we were 22 that started the PhD program. By the time we were in my finals, we were probably like 12 or 13 left. Dropped out.
About
Some
9 or 10
finished
people
with
dropped out,
masters, some
failed out.
failed out completely with nothing. Yeah.
Wow. So that was just
So
that's
so
written.
once
Did
so
you
you
have to
have
do
to
any
pass
orals?
that written, finish your classes, then you do orals.
Okay.
So the
Okay.
orals is basically
Then
the
you
way
do.
my oral went was we have an hypothesis. I've done a couple of experiments and then I present it to my committee
Okay.
member. This is where I've gotten to. This is where I think I'm going with this. Yeah. So they say, okay, you have done. So
This is the
the
best
orals was
research.
basically just a report of where I am in my research.
Okay. Okay. Wow. That was
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
huge reflection. Well, can you? Okay, so another thing is the next question I had was academic and research journey. So
Mm.
kind of touched on some of it, but this is the question: can you from studying biochemistry at University of Benin to pursuing a PhD in chemistry at University of Kentucky? What inspired the transition, and what are the biggest challenges you faced? Is there a
Yeah,
different? I'm not
yeah,
a
yeah.
chemistry
So,
guy.
so
I
there's
don't know.
a chemistry and biochemistry. So this is it. Biochemistry is like a subset of chemistry. Let me use that. But biochemistry can also stand
Okay.
on its own as a full department because of how wide the field is. So there are some.
Okay.
So I learned this the hard way. You came like we said before. You came to the US 1 year before me, right? That probably would not have happened
Yeah.
if I had the information that so many schools put biochemistry under chemistry. So
Oh. Okay.
it's like University of Kentucky. There is no biochemistry on the graduate class.
Oh.
So basically, you study chemistry and then you
Okay.
decide to major in biochemistry. So most times, biochemistry is under the School of Medical Sciences. In the US, at least,
Oh. Okay.
yes,
Okay.
in the School of Medical Sciences, so they
U.S.
are together with medical sciences and other. Sometimes they call it biochemistry and molecular biology. But now,
Right. Yeah.
chemistry has a lot of teaching opportunities because like I said before, every
Okay.
undergrad that wants to be that plans to go to medical or dental or pharmacy school will have to have shown that they have taken some chemistry classes and chemistry labs. So imagine the
Right.
entire first year, right? At least half of them are taking
Mm.
chemistry in the entire school. So that's a huge,
Right.
and they have to pay. You know the way it is in the US, they have to pay for the credit. So that means the chemistry department needs
Yeah.
a lot of PhD or master's degree students to be teaching assistants. So that opens up a lot of
Yeah.
position things. So as soon as I knew that, what I did was I would look at the school. Okay, this is Department of Chemistry. Do they have professors whose research are at least in biological chemistry, so that I won't have to
Chemistry.
suffer
Right.
too much when I get into the department? I won't have to kind of start learning from this.
Okay.
So all
Okay.
I needed to do once I got to chemistry was just to try to pass the chemistry classes
Yeah.
and then focus my research
Yeah.
on biochemistry. So even though my PhD is reading
Chemistry.
PhD in chemistry, my research interest was actually in biochemistry and molecular biology. Yeah. So the
Okay.
only
Okay.
disadvantage is
Okay.
if you are like a solid biochemistry person and not really a chemistry person, you are limited on
Right.
the kinds of labs you want to join. But there are few of us enough
Okay. Okay.
that we are able to still get at least one or two professors whose research are more in biophysics, biochemistry, or molecular biology. So that was
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
so that was how the
Well,
transition worked. But if I had to apply for PhD in biochemistry, because of the limited
yeah.
teaching positions, right? You are only limited to professors that have funding. So meaning the competition is stiffer
Okay.
because the professors want
Differ
to be
for
sure that they
field
take
of
the best of the best, and because that's one, and then
best.
because their own
Okay.
funding is
Okay.
limited, they don't want to take too many. But chemistry can afford it. If your
Yeah.
professor doesn't have funding, the department takes care of you. Just that you teach. Yes,
Yeah. Yeah. Because
you
of
teach. Yes.
students. Because of number of
So
students.
if your professor likes you, he could tell the chemistry department, don't worry, I'm going to take care of this student from my. So there were semesters where I was a research assistant. There were times when my professor said, look, you were a research assistant last semester. I want to make this student research assistant. You go to teach. So we're kind of alternating it that way. So whenever you have a semester where you are teaching,
Okay.
if you are no longer taking classes, it's fine. You just teach, you go back to the lab. So your advisor don't have to spend their
Right.
money on you. The department takes care of you, healthcare and everything, and you are still doing research for them. So that was why I
Yeah.
decided
Okay.
on going to chemistry. So the classes were
Interesting.
tough for
Interesting.
me compared to a traditional chemistry student, but of course you you hold your own, right? You grind it through, and
Yeah. True.
yeah.
Right. True. Yeah. Okay. So did you ever do any internships? I was gonna ask. Was there any time that you had to did you consider
Yeah,
internships and things like that?
that's a really good question. I wish I had done internship. I would advise every student
Okay.
always try to apply for internship position. One, because it's almost a sure way to get an industry experience and then get your foot on the door. So
Right.
if you intend for a
Right.
company and if business is going well, more likely than not, they give you an offer letter and say, go finish up and come work for us if you want. So
Come back.
even if they
Yeah.
don't do that, at
Right.
least you now have 3 or 4 months of industry experience, which will be useful in other job applications, especially if you are someone like me that just came
Right.
from bachelor's to master's to PhD. There was no work in between. You have academic credibility, but you don't have industry credibility. So to answer your
Right.
question, no, but I wish I had done that. But the challenge sometimes, if
Okay.
your advisor is fully funded, is
Yes.
loaded, he or she would not want you to go
Yeah.
for internship because it is in their interest for you to stay back. But it's not in your own interest
To
because they see summer as the time where
yeah.
you
To
have
stay
all
back.
the time for research. So they don't want you to go for internship.
Yeah.
But if your advisor
Correct.
don't have
That's true.
funding, she will encourage you. He or she will encourage you. I think you should get internship. Is good for you, because no money to fund you.
So you stayed back to do
Yes, yes.
a lot of
I
your
always
research
do.
during summer. The question I had was expertise in molecular biology. You extensively worked with molecular cloning
Mm,
and next generation sequencing. Um, so, what was your PhD research
mm.
about? The next half of the question is related to
Okay.
the job, but I want to leave that for the next question. What was your
Yeah.
PhD
So,
research about? You can remember.
yeah, I think I can remember. So I'm going to make it as basic as possible so that whoever is listening will understand, right? So
Okay.
basically, the title of my thesis was probing the assembly process, dynamics, right, and functional relevance of
Okay.
ACRA protein in multi-drug resistance in
Okay.
bacteria. So when we're talking about
Okay.
drug resistance is basically you have an infection, you take a drug that used to
Yeah.
work, all of a sudden the drug is no
Yeah.
longer working. So the bacteria
Right.
or the agent, the biological agent that is causing the infection has become so
Right.
used to the drug that it now sees it as food in literal terms. So you are taking the drugs
Okay.
and the bacteria is like, oh,
Literal terms.
welcome. It, nothing is happening. So it basically, when we
Happening.
talk of resistance, the bacteria is pushing away the effect of the drug and is still standing strong,
Right.
doing its business of infecting you. So
Right.
how does that happen? The bacteria
Right.
has developed very efficient or clever ways to to escape that drug.
Right.
One of the ways he does that is
Oh,
it could change the way the membrane of the bacteria is receptive. We call it permeability. So it changes the way the membrane,
okay.
if the membrane becomes unreceptive to the drug to enter into the bacterial system. Because when you take the drug still has to enter into the
Okay.
bacterial system to kill it off. So the permeability
Yeah.
of the membrane
Yeah.
is very low. So it doesn't allow the
Okay.
entry of the drug into its system. So the other
Into
one,
its
there are other
system.
ways,
Okay.
but the other one is multi-drug efflux pump. So there's a pump in the
Okay.
bacteria membrane. So the bacteria, the gram-negative bacteria has inner
Okay.
membrane, okay, periplasmic membrane, which is
Right.
in between the inner and the outer
Right.
membrane. So you have three membranes, inner,
Okay.
outer, and
Right.
then periplasm in between. So
In
the
between.
protein, there is a protein called ACRA, ACRB, and TOLC. I
Okay.
won't go to the reason why they are called that
Okay.
way, but just know that this protein, they work hand in hand.
Okay.
ACRB is in the inner membrane, ACRA is in the partition, periplasm. TOLC is like
Okay.
the outer membrane channel through which the drugs get out of the system. So
Okay.
these three work together to pump the drug out of the bacterial
Okay.
system so that the
Bacteria.
concentration of the drug within
Oh.
the bacteria becomes really low and the antibacterial does not
So
have the required effect.
oh,
So my PhD is
effect on
trying
it.
to study
Okay.
how these three proteins interact together. So we call it assembly mechanism. How
Oh.
does it assemble to perform its function of pumping the
No.
drug out of the bacterial system? So if
Bacteria.
we are able to
So that you can
understand the
start that.
interaction between the three, that could help drug design people to be able to design drugs that can affect this interaction so that the bacteria will not be able to escape the
Right.
effect of the drug. So to study these three proteins is a large project. So I actually studied one of it, which is the one in the periplasm, ACRA.
Oh,
We had another PhD student
okay.
in my lab who studied ACRB, which is the one in the inner membrane.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
I studied ACRA,
Membrane.
and then my findings and her findings were able to put it together in one paper where we were both first authors. Published it to create a complete
Oh,
story.
okay.
We didn't work on TOLC, but we already have some ideas. So we just tied together what was known about
Okay.
TOLC, what I did about ACRA, what she did about ACRB. We tied it together and we
Right.
published a paper about it. So that is basically my studies. And to
Mm.
do that, we had to create a lot
Yeah.
of alterations in the bacterial system. What I mean is we had to create alteration in
Okay.
the bacteria and also in the proteins. So the way proteins are structured, proteins are
Okay.
made up of amino acids. So think about it as
Okay.
A to Z, right? A, B, C, D, E, F, G in sequence, right? So that the proteins are made of amino acids that are arranged in sequence. And every amino
Okay.
acid in the protein, right, interact together to form the
Yeah.
overall structure of the protein. So some
Okay.
regions
The
of
protein.
the amino acid might be responsible for certain aspects of the protein that when you change one amino acid in that region, it could affect the overall interaction or the overall structure of the protein. So,
Okay.
in
Right.
studying ACRA, we created a lot of unknown mutations and study how that affect the function
Okay.
of the protein. So that is where the
The
molecular
protein.
cloning
Okay.
skills come into play. Yeah.
I mean, okay. Okay. So did you have to learn equipment? You're coming from Nigeria. You
Mm,
never used any of this equipment before. You probably have never
mm.
seen any of these equipments before. How did you have to? What was there a learning curve that you had
Yeah.
to
So
quickly understand?
when
How to
the
do.
good thing about our education in Nigeria is that we are really good with the theory of things. Like I already know about
Right.
PCR, polymerase chain reaction. That's one of the techniques we use to create mutation.
Right.
So in my head, I know what it is.
Okay.
I can imagine what it is. All
Right.
I needed to do is to see it being
Right.
done.
It's
So when
okay.
I came
Okay.
to the
Okay. I
lab,
get you
oh,
now.
this is PCR medicine. I said, okay. I just reflect on what I was taught about PCR, right? So doing it is like confirming what you already
Right.
know. So yes,
Right.
we were kind of deficient with the practical aspects, the lab. So what I did was
Right.
we had senior PhD students in my lab my advisor
Okay.
say, okay, this
Okay.
is a new student, please take him through. And then I just shadow them. I
Oh.
see what they are
Okay.
doing, right? So I see what they do. I shadow them. Then
Okay.
we walk side by side, and then I walk alone. You know what I mean? So I watch him do it.
Okay.
I do it with him, and then I do it alone. So that
Yeah.
was how we were taking every of those
Okay.
techniques in the lab until I became independent. It
Okay.
wasn't easy because especially when you're working with
Yeah.
people that probably are not the same skin or ethnicity with you. You know, there are some bias that occur. There are some things that but you know what you are looking for. Yeah,
You have
so
to
you
deal
kind
with them
of
as well.
bear whatever comes your way at that point because you are learning, right? But that also tells you to learn fast
Yes.
because you won't always have them with you.
That's true. That's so. How did you then transition? How did you get your job? So you
Mhm,
finished your research. Now you work
mhm.
at Thermo Fisher Scientific. I don't want you to talk about
Mhm.
things that you're doing that are
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
proprietary. So please
No,
don't say anything proprietary.
basically, I can talk about what
But
we already launched and what
how
it
did you
does.
get
It's
the job?
actually a good way to market the company. I'm not going to go into
Yeah,
formulation or lab work, but I can say we create,
no,
yes.
just tell us
So
how you got the job and what. Yeah.
basically, when I finished my PhD at the University of Kentucky, going back to what I said, always remember that what you are an international student. You have 3 months
That's
to
true.
get a job or get out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Get a job or get out.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
I knew I was going to graduate in. This is why I say my story, I always had near misses. And it's kind of like everything just kind of
Wow.
eventually works out again, either by divine intervention or by the
Right.
fact that I know that this is now, I'm at the breaking point, right? At the break point, at that point, you put your
Right.
all, into it, and whatever comes out, you've done your best. So anyway, I started
Right.
applying. I knew I was going to graduate in December of 2021. I started applying for a job passively
Right.
in May 2021. And
Okay.
then, like Job, you do the first one, you get rejected. You apply for the second one, you get,
Yeah.
like joke. That got to August and nothing
Yeah.
was coming. I started sweating. I think, wait, it's getting real. So
You
anyway,
now.
so I applied for this job in May. Also, I had even forgotten about it. I forgot that I applied. So anyway, when
Okay.
I graduated, so for you to graduate in December, you must, or for you to get a December degree, you should have defended by mid
Yeah.
November. You know the way they do things here, they plan. They will tell you this is the deadline for you
Yeah. The plan.
to defend if you want a December
Yeah.
degree, blah blah. So 2 weeks to the deadline, I hadn't gotten a job. And I told my advisor, if I don't get a job,
Wow.
please, you need to give me one more semester. And she was leaving for another
Yeah.
school. She was
Okay.
leaving for Texas A&M that same December.
Oh
So I was
wow.
under intense pressure to
A
get
lot
a
of pressure.
job and get out.
Yeah.
So anyway, she
Yeah.
agreed that okay, even if she leaves, she will give me one semester. I'll just Another professor will
Okay.
supervise me for that semester, but we'll do everything on. So there was that
Mhm.
assurance, but that is not what I want. I don't want to be under the mercy of someone. So
Yeah.
anyway, I got coincidentally,
Yeah.
I just got a call from a school. It's called Transylvania University. It's a private school in
Okay.
Kentucky. They have undergraduate program. Oh, there is this professor that is going on sabbatical leave. We've been looking for someone to take her
Right.
class for the past 5 months. Yeah, so they reached out
Wow.
to my someone in my department. They advertised it. I applied. They said, "Okay, so are you going to be able to help us? When are you graduating?" I said, "Oh, when am I graduating? I can graduate today if you give me the job." Yeah, right there, we
Wow.
negotiated the amount right there, and the next day I
Wow.
spoke with the assistant dean of the college. Yeah, so kind of like formality.
Right.
I did an interview. She asked me some questions, and the week after I got the offer, and it was an adjunct professor, but I still appreciated it because at least I have something for another full semester. I defended, I
Yeah. 4 months
graduated,
at
I
least.
taught there, and it was time for me to leave in May. The offer was from January till April. They were willing to give me the next semester,
Yeah.
but the summer in between,
Somewhere,
I need to remain
somewhere in between.
employed.
Yes.
the same thing
Yes.
happened. A friend of mine went to interview with a community college and they said, "Oh, we need more people. Do you know someone?" I said, "Yeah, I know someone." They spoke with me. I said, "Yeah, I will take it." They gave me summer. So while I was teaching in that community
Wow.
college for the summer, I already had an offer for spring.
Yeah. And
For
for
fall.
spring.
For fall.
Yeah. For fall.
So
For
before
fall.
I
Yeah, for fall.
finished
Yes.
my teaching duty in the community college, I got a call from someone in Thermo Fisher. "Oh, you applied for a job."
Oh,
I said, "Oh, I can't remember, but anyway, okay." So we spoke on the phone with the recruiter, talked about my experience and all that, set up an interview with me, and that was how I got
okay.
this job. So I was supposed to end my teaching duty by end of August for the community college, right?
Right.
Or no, end of July. So I started my Thermo Fisher work
Okay.
middle of July, and then I had just 2 weeks to conclude the semester. And then
Right.
the school decided, I said, "Look, we want you to continue till December." So even the fall offer I had with
Okay.
the other with Transylvania University, now I
That's,
got it
that's
with
true.
the Bluegrass, and I still had Thermo Fisher job.
Community college.
So everything worked out great. So that was how I got to Thermo Fisher. And it was in Thermo Fisher that I learned how to do next generation sequencing. So next generation sequencing is
Oh,
basically using modern and advanced tools to sequence the
okay.
genes. So like how COVID-19 was an epidemic, right? So the COVID virus, you can actually sequence the gene and the amino acid sequence and
What it would look like.
the nucleotide sequence of the gene. You know where there are mutations and all
Okay.
that. So what we do is we
Okay.
develop assays that we can use to sequence the DNA of someone, and then we say, "Oh,
Oh, okay.
we see some alterations here. This alteration can predispose you to
Right.
cancer." We are able to detect. So
Okay.
we kind of create high sensitive assays, genetic assays that we can use to detect
Right.
mutations that can predispose you to different diseases. It doesn't mean you have it. It only tells you that
Oh,
watch it if you can. Or there are people that take radical
okay.
steps when they know they
Right.
are predisposed to breast cancer, for example. They could just go and maybe they are done with childbearing, they just take off the thing to prevent it. So
Right.
yeah, so those are kind of
Okay.
the research. So since joining Thermo Fisher, I have the kind of position I
Right.
am is I'm in a position where I have the opportunity to rotate between teams if I want. I'm not tied to one particular business division.
Okay.
My offer is from the corporate
Okay.
Thermo Fisher corporate, so I'm not
Okay.
tied to a business. Anyway, I think
Okay.
that's a detail I should probably not go into. But anyway, I have rotated between teams and I've been able to expand my knowledge. For example, I work with the NGS team. I've worked with protein purification
Okay.
development team, and now I'm working with protein cell analysis
Okay.
team. And I'm grateful for that because
Okay.
that has actually increased my skills. The way industry is, sometimes it's one thing every day, you get bored. But I'm now been
Yeah.
I've been opportune to rotate between teams to learn things here and there, which will be
Okay.
helpful for me in
Yeah.
my career development.
Okay. So
Oh,
this comes to the
really?
last question now. This
Are
is the
you
last.
tired?
Yeah. Uh, no, I'm not
Wow.
tired. This is the last question because you've answered everything. The last question is that what's your background in research and development? What are your long-term career goals? Are there any specific problems or challenges in biochemistry or molecular biology that you're passionate about and solving in the future? Maybe like a
Oh,
second
second
PhD.
PhD. Did I hear you right?
Yes, yeah, I
Can
mean,
you
you're
see
up to
the
it
white
now.
hair on my head? Now you should be asking me, how many Teslas do you have? Not how many yeah. How many
Become a
houses have you
businessman.
bought? Yeah.
I mean, but
So
yes.
this is it. As a PhD, you either make a decision to stay in the
Yeah.
academia or go into the industry.
Okay.
So in my own case,
Right.
I feel like whichever choice you make, you are still
Hmm.
you can still put yourself in a position to make an impact. If I was in the academia, I'm going to
Right.
be telling you, oh, how much grant I want to get, how much papers I want to
Okay.
publish, the quality of papers. So, but now that I'm in the
Right.
industry, I think in terms of product,
Yeah.
what product can I develop
Okay.
to help maybe
Right.
cancer patients, to help kidney transplant patient,
Okay.
things like that. So I in the
Right.
long term, I see myself in leadership position where I drive innovative technologies, where I drive innovation
Okay.
that could solve real world problems. Yeah.
Okay. 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 So I have one more question
Okay.
regarding
Yes,
your
yeah, yeah, yeah.
immigration journey. And also your what you do on the side. No, well, not you don't do it on the side. What you do
Mm,
with your full chest naturally. So the first question is about the immigration journey, and the last one is about
mm,
your MC skills. So let's start with immigration journey. Um, how did
mm.
that pan out? Because I know the story, but I
So
want you
this
to
is
share.
my
I want
so
you to share that.
basically I came to the US as an F1 student. For those that don't know what F1 is, that is the
Right.
visa you get to be able to study in the US. And that becomes
Right.
a status, F1 status. So
Yeah.
F1 status comes
Right.
with a lot of restrictions. Basically, if you're an F1 student, you can only work
Mm-hmm.
20 hours in a week. You can only work on campus,
Yep. Correct.
except you are
Campus.
going
Yep.
for internship or you get a CPT, a curricular.
Yep.
I think that's curriculum practical training. But yeah, OPT is
Optional
optional.
practical training.
CPT
Yeah.
is curriculum. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what you
Curriculum.
use
Yes. Correct.
to work outside of school. So there are a lot of restrictions that come with F1. And
Yeah.
also, once you are done with school to navigate out of the F1 into becoming a permanent US resident, there are many parts to that,
Yeah.
right? But broadly, there are two
Yeah.
parts. Either you fall in love, right?
Yeah.
Get married, or you go through the employment
Yeah.
route. And then, God,
Yeah.
the US immigration system is there are nuances to it, right? Even though there is an employment route, they have made it in such a way that you could still go through the employment route without actually using an employer to file your green card. So basically,
Yeah.
it's going to be what do you have that will
Yeah.
benefit the US, that will make the US waive the
Correct.
requirement for a job offer for you to become a permanent resident. So that was the path that I chose
Correct.
because going through an employer also has its own delays and there are also nuances to them. So I decided
Yeah.
to do it on my own. So
Right.
basically, I told the US government that I have these skills in molecular biology, I have a PhD, I have these skills in drug
Right.
resistance, and this can solve a lot of bacterial drug resistant problem in the US. Please
Problems.
let me stay. I'm begging. And we did
Yeah.
through
So you did
NIW route,
you
and
do
they actually
NIW.
saw my argument, they liked it, they approved it, and then I applied for my adjustment of
Right.
status. And then once you do that, your
Yes.
dependents are also eligible for it. And then so
Yeah.
my wife was also added to the application, and that was how we
Granted.
navigated that, immigration process to become U.S. permanent resident. And then there is one final lap. I know you are far ahead of me on that, where after 4 years, 9 months, you can apply to become citizen. So
Once,
what? So that was how I navigated
yeah,
my
I am.
way. And for all those international students that are coming too, I always tell them, do don't try to game the system. Be patient.
Right.
Accomplish what you came here to accomplish
Right.
first, right? And the universe
Yeah.
is going to, make things to come together for you. Things are going to come together in the end. It might be tough. It might be rocky. It might look like the path forward is hazy, but I can assure you that there is always a
Yeah.
way the universe will carry you through to the where you want to be. What's the second question? Oh yeah,
Several questions about your
extracurricular
MC.
activities. In my spare time, I'm also good. As you can see, I can talk from now till 5 p.m. So I'm naturally good
Yeah, I
at
know.
anchoring events. I like show. I sing. I do a lot of
Right.
singing in my church, and right now I'm learning how to play the keyboard. Man,
Right.
that thing is lucrative. I'm telling you. Yeah,
Oh, really?
do you know
Are you
that
serious?
an average piano player in church, the cheapest I've seen in California,
Yeah.
earns $500 every Sunday.
Yeah.
Yes,
$500
yes, at church.
every
If you
Sunday
want to
at
charge
church.
your church, and you are not playing piano, you are not playing the keyboard for the
Oh,
entire
wow.
2 hours, right? You're playing for when they are singing, and then so imagine going home with 2K every month. Yeah, it's a
Extra.
talent, right? And it took me extra. So I'm learning
Yeah.
that not because of money, but because I
Yeah.
love music generally. I just want to add that to my portfolio. So I do MC. So now that you have
Okay.
given me this platform,
Okay.
go to Facebook and check
Yeah.
Kenny IJ Multimedia. Kenny IJ Multimedia.
Okay.
Then check
Okay.
me on
I'll
Instagram, Kenny
I'll
Isoiza.
put it
Facebook also, I use my full name. You will see
in,
my
okay.
work and everything there. And yeah,
I'll put it in
yeah.
I'll put it in
Give me a
description so
call
people
and
can actually
we can
go
do
take a
something
look
together.
for.
The future looks bright.
Okay. All right. Well, it was nice catching up with you and seeing you again. Thank you for tuning
Thank
in.
you
You have
very
a
much
great for
for
weekend.
having me. I
Uh,
appreciate
thank
it,
you very
Sahid.
much. much.
Thank you
Insights
so
and
much.
stories that
Bye
resonate with
bye.
your journey. Thank you. If you have any thoughts Yeah. to share, Right. questions, or want to send a voice note with your feedback, please visit our website at leapwithjackpot.io. You will find a contact from there. I would love to hear from you and feature your voice in a future episode. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform, some of which are Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or Player FM. Your subscriptions and reviews help us grow and reach more listeners, and I truly appreciate each one of them. Also, check out our merch store on leapwithjackpot.io website for some cool t-shirts and hoodies. Perfect for showing your support for the show. Stay tuned for our next episode, where we'll dive even deeper into the experiences and challenges of international education and careers. Until then, keep leaping forward, and thanks again for being part of the Leap with Jackpot community.